In the remote African village of Kwamekrom, nestled deep within a lush, vibrant forest, life followed the harmonious rhythms of nature. The villagers, deeply rooted in their traditions, celebrated the abundance of their land and the blessings of the Almighty. They lived in a close-knit community, sharing their joys and sorrows, guided by the wisdom of their elders and the spiritual leadership of Father Kwabena, a man of deep faith and compassion who served as the village priest. The villagers of Kwamekrom were primarily agrarians, their lives intertwined with the fertile land that surrounded them. The village was enveloped in a dense forest where towering trees and a myriad of plant species flourished, creating a lush, green canopy that provided shelter and sustenance. The soil, rich and loamy, was perfect for farming, and the villagers took great pride in their ability to cultivate a variety of crops. Their main staples included yams, cassava, maize, and plantains, which they grew in well-tended fields just beyond the forest's edge. These crops not only fed their families, but also provided a source of trade with neighboring villages. In addition to farming, the villagers engaged in hunting and fishing, making full use of the abundant wildlife and water resources in their environment. The nearby river teemed with fish, and skilled fishermen, using handmade nets and traps, would venture out at dawn, returning with bountiful catches that were shared among the community. The forest was also home to a variety of game, and hunting expeditions led by experienced hunters were common. These excursions not only provided meat but also materials for clothing, tools, and other essentials. Craftsmanship was another vital aspect of village life. The villagers of Kwamekrom were renowned for their skill in weaving, pottery, and carving. The women wove intricate patterns into cloth, creating garments that were both functional and beautiful, while the potters molded clay into sturdy pots and vessels for cooking and storage. The men, on the other hand, were adept at carving wood and bone, producing tools, utensils, and decorative items that reflected their rich cultural heritage. These crafts were not only practical, but also held significant cultural and spiritual meaning, often featuring symbols and designs that told stories of their ancestors and beliefs. Cultural and spiritual activities played a central role in the daily lives of the villagers. They observed numerous festivals and rituals throughout the year, each marking a significant event or season. One of the most important was the New Yam Festival, a time of thanksgiving and celebration for the harvest. During this festival, the villagers would gather in the village square, dressed in their finest attire, to offer prayers and sacrifices to the Almighty, thanking Him for the bounty of the land. The festivities included traditional music and dance, with the rhythmic beats of drums and the melodious sounds of flutes and other instruments filling the air. Elders recounted ancient stories and proverbs, passing down wisdom and history to the younger generation. At the heart of these celebrations was Father Kwabena, the village priest. A man of deep faith and compassion, he was revered by all for his spiritual guidance and unwavering dedication to the well-being of the community. Father Kwabena had been born and raised in Kwamekrom, and his connection to the village and its people was profound. He had studied theology in a distant city, returning with a wealth of knowledge and a fervent desire to serve his community. Under his leadership, the small church at the center of the village became a beacon of hope and faith. The church itself was a modest structure, built from local materials and adorned with simple yet meaningful decorations. Inside, the walls were lined with handmade tapestries and carvings depicting scenes from the Bible and the village's history. The altar, a focal point of the church, was always adorned with fresh flowers and offerings from the villagers. Every Sunday and on special occasions, the church would be filled with the faithful, their voices rising in hymns of praise and prayer. Father Kwabena's sermons were powerful and inspiring, often drawing from both the scriptures and the rich oral traditions of Kwamekrom. He spoke of the importance of faith, community, and the enduring love of God, reminding the villagers that they were never alone, even in the face of adversity. His words provided comfort and strength, especially during the difficult times when Mama Badiya's dark influence began to spread through the village. The history of Kwamekrom was rich and storied, with roots that stretched back many generations. According to the elders, the village had been founded by a group of families who had fled their original home due to a great conflict. Guided by a vision from the Almighty, they journeyed through the dense forest until they found the fertile land that would become Kwamekrom. Over time, the village grew and prospered, its people developing a deep connection to the land and their faith. The villagers believed that their ancestors' spirits watched over them, and they maintained several sacred sites where they would go to pray and offer sacrifices. These sites, often located in serene, natural settings, were considered to be places of great spiritual power. It was here that the elders would perform rituals and seek guidance from the divine, ensuring that the village remained in harmony with the natural and spiritual world. Despite the simplicity of their lives, the villagers of Kwamekrom were content and resilient. They faced each challenge with a spirit of unity and determination, always trusting in the guidance of their elders and the blessings of the Almighty. Their days were filled with hard work, but also with joy and camaraderie. They gathered in the evenings to share meals, tell stories, and enjoy each other's company, fostering a sense of belonging and community that was the cornerstone of their way of life. However, this harmony was shattered when Mama Badiya, a powerful and malevolent witch, began to unleash her demonic powers upon the village. Her dark sorcery wrought havoc, causing the sudden and mysterious death of both young and old, men and women alike. Healthy villagers would fall ill and in days, their bodies showing signs of an inexplicable malady that no medicine could cure. The once fertile land turned barren, crops withered before they could be harvested, and livestock perished in large numbers. As if to seal the village's doom, Mama Badiya withheld the rains for many months, transforming the lush fields into arid wastelands and the vibrant river into a mere trickle. Fear gripped the hearts of the villagers. Families mourned the loss of loved ones, the air thick with the wails of grief and the heavy silence of despair. Children clung to their parents, their innocent eyes wide with confusion and terror, while the elders, once the bastions of wisdom and stability, seemed as helpless as the rest. The village square, which used to be a place of communal gatherings and celebrations, became a ground for funerals and sorrowful assemblies. The people of Kwamekrom, who had always prided themselves on their resilience and unity, now found themselves paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. They whispered among themselves, afraid to speak too loudly, lest they attract Mama Badiya's wrath. The once vibrant spirit of the village was overshadowed by a dark, oppressive cloud of dread. Amidst this turmoil, Father Kwabena remained a beacon of hope. His deep faith and unwavering belief in the power of God gave him the strength to confront the pervasive fear. Despite the overwhelming odds and the visible manifestations of Mama Badiya's dark powers, he called upon the villagers to join him in prayer, to place their trust in the Almighty. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, only a small group of Christians continued to gather with him in the small, humble church at the village's center. These few faithful, their hearts steadfast in their belief, knelt beside Father Kwabena each night, their prayers rising like incense to the heavens. They prayed for deliverance, for rain, for the restoration of their land and the healing of their people. Father Kwabena, with his profound sense of compassion and deep spiritual insight, urged the villagers to hold on to their faith, even as they saw their world crumbling around them. He reminded them of the stories of old, of how God had delivered his people from the clutches of evil time and again. His sermons, filled with fervor and conviction, sought to rekindle the spark of hope in the villagers' hearts. Yet fear had taken a firm hold, and many were too paralyzed to heed his call. The turning point came on a particularly stormy night. The winds howled through the village, and the sky was lit by flashes of lightning, as if the very heavens were at war. Inside the church, Father Kwabena and his small congregation of faithful believers prayed with a desperation born of necessity. Their voices, though few, were strong and united, rising above the noise of the storm outside. As they prayed, a miraculous event unfolded. A divine light descended upon the church, illuminating the humble space with a brilliant, otherworldly glow. The air seemed to vibrate with a holy presence, filling the believers with an unshakable sense of peace and hope that dispelled the creeping dread in their hearts. Empowered by this divine encounter, Father Kwabena stood before the congregation, proclaiming that the time for deliverance had come. His voice, imbued with the power of the Holy Spirit, resonated with authority and conviction. The faithful, their hearts bolstered by the miraculous light, joined him in a final fervent prayer for the village's salvation. As their prayers reached a crescendo, the storm outside intensified, the winds howling with a ferocity that seemed to challenge the dark forces at work. Meanwhile, Mama Badiya, sensing the weakening of her powers, prepared to unleash her most potent and sinister spells in a desperate attempt to maintain her malevolent hold over Kwamekrom. She chanted incantations in her lair deep within the forest, her voice echoing with malevolent intent. The spiritual atmosphere in the village grew tense as the final confrontation approached, a palpable sense of impending battle hanging in the air. The villagers, though afraid, found a renewed sense of unity and purpose, gathering together in small groups to pray and support one another. Father Kwabena's leadership and unwavering faith had ignited a spark of hope that spread through the community like wildfire. People who had once been too afraid to leave their homes now ventured out, joining their neighbors in acts of solidarity and defiance against the darkness. The village square, which had been a place of mourning and despair, began to transform. The villagers cleaned and decorated it, preparing it for what they believed would be their moment of liberation. They hung lanterns, set up altars, and placed symbols of their faith around the square, creating a sacred space where they could gather and draw strength from one another. The night of the final confrontation arrived. The air was thick with anticipation, and a palpable energy crackled through the village. The storm raged with an intensity that seemed almost supernatural, the winds howling and the sky alive with lightning. Father Kwabena led the villagers in a procession to the village square, their voices raised in hymns of praise and prayer. The faithful carried torches, their flames flickering defiantly against the wind and rain. As they reached the square, Father Kwabena took his place at the center, raising the Bible high and declaring the supremacy of Jesus Christ over all dark powers. The villagers, united in their resolve, joined him in prayer, their voices a mighty chorus that created a spiritual shield, reflecting their unbreakable faith. Mama Badiya, witnessing this defiant display, unleashed her dark energy, attempting to crush the villagers' spirits once and for all. But as her malevolent power met the wall of faith and prayer, it faltered. The divine light that had filled the church now enveloped the village square, growing brighter and more intense. The oppressive clouds began to break apart, pierced by shafts of radiant light. Mama Badiya, unable to withstand the overwhelming power of their collective faith and the divine light that now enveloped the village, found her dark energy deflected and her spells unraveling before her eyes. Her grip on the village shattered, her malevolent powers dissipating into the night with a final anguished scream that echoed through the hills and valleys. With the dawn of a new day, the storm cleared, the sun rising to bathe the village in golden light, and the village of Kwamekrom began to heal. The once withered crops sprang back to life, livestock thrived once more, and the strange illness that had plagued the villagers vanished without a trace. The rain, withheld for so many months, finally fell in gentle, nourishing showers, revitalizing the land and bringing a renewed sense of life to the village. The villagers, their hearts filled with joy and gratitude, rejoiced and embraced one another, celebrating the newfound peace and prosperity that had returned to their land. The tale of their miraculous deliverance quickly became a cherished part of their oral tradition, passed down from generation to generation as a testament to the power of faith and unity in overcoming the darkest of evils. Chief Kwasi, one of the village elders, would often gather the children around him to recount the story with vivid detail, emphasizing the lessons of resilience, community, and the eternal power of God's light to dispel the shadows of fear and despair. The annual Festival of Light, established to commemorate their deliverance, became a cornerstone of their identity. drawing visitors from far and wide and ensuring that the memory of their miraculous victory remained alive. Through their trials and triumphs, the villagers of Kwamekrom demonstrated the strength of their faith and the resilience of their spirit. Guided by the wisdom of their elders and the unwavering leadership of Father Kwabena, they overcame the darkness that had threatened to destroy their way of life, emerging stronger and more united than ever before. Their story stands as an eternal testament to the power of God's light to dispel even the deepest shadows, a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who hear it. The village, forever blessed, stood as a living testament to the enduring power of God's love and the unbreakable spirit of those who believe, ensuring that the light of faith would never be extinguished.